Hey everybody, this is Ethan here from Nintendo Collectors Wisconsin, and I'm going to be doing my first video review today on the Game Boy Pocket. It was the second Game Boy in the Game Boy line, and it was released in 1996, which is kind of a long time, 7 years for the next Game Boy to come out. But I guess Nintendo was selling the original one pretty well, but eventually, after a while, people started saying, hey, we want a better Game Boy. So they came out with this. This was their answer to people's problems. And I guess it still doesn't have a backlight, which is kind of a pain, because the screen's really kind of hard to see if it's kind of dark out. But if you're in a well-lit area, it's a really good screen compared to the original Game Boy, because this one actually is a true black and white screen, whereas the original Game Boy had like that pea soup colored monochromatic screen. So, and it's also a bigger screen, which is really kind of nice. And it's basically the same as the original Game Boy, just kind of much smaller. Wish I had the original one here to compare it side by side, but I still need to get that. But it has the same basic controls. So you have the D-pad here, the BA, start select, you have the speaker there, but the speaker isn't nearly as loud as the original one. The original one has a much louder speaker in there. Then you have the headphone there, and the AC adapter plug. On this side you have the contrast wheel, the slot there for the cartridge, and the power switch is up on top. But on this side you have the volume control, and the link port, which is actually a different link port than the original, but this design was used on every Game Boy made after this. Except for the Game Boy Micro, that has a different link thing too. So, here I have the transparent one, and let's just put a game in here to show you what the screen looks like. Let me just get one. I'm going to put Tetris in here. Slide that in the back, and switched on. Here, so it loads up. Just want to show you, this one here is the power lights. This means this one was a later model. The original ones didn't have a power light, but people said, hey, we want a power light so we can just tell that it's on and how much battery we have left. So they added that in on some of the later models because people wanted that. So here you have Tetris, and you can start that. You can see it's a black and white screen. You probably can't see it very well because of my camera, but let's kind of show you what gameplay looks like here. Start that, and so there that is. And it's going to see, kind of builds the pieces up. And I guess the one problem with this Game Boy is it uses AAA batteries. I guess that's just to kind of make it smaller because they're smaller batteries, but they're really kind of a pain because nothing uses them and nobody really has them lying around. So this is actually a really good Game Boy. This was only made for 2 years though, because people actually really wanted color, and it's kind of a long time to have the 7 years or whatever, and still no color system when like the Atari Lynx and the Sega Game Gear were out, and those are both color and they were backlit. So they made the Game Boy Color, but that still wasn't backlit. But otherwise, for original Game Boys, this is much better to play them on than the original, because it has a much nicer screen and it's just smaller. The only real problem is that it uses the AAA batteries, but otherwise it's a great Game Boy. And I guess the one thing that's kind of weird is since there's no little locking switch that'll lock into there, you can actually put a Game Boy Color game in there without, and it still can fit because it's the same exact cartridge size. And I'll just turn it on here just to show you what that does. See the reflection of my camera there. See Nintendo logo there? And it pops up, and you probably can't read this, but it says CGB, so Color Game Boy Test Drive Le Mans. This game pack is specially designed for Game Boy Color. Please use the Game Boy Color unit to play this game. So that's basically what any Game Boy Color game says when you put it in there. So it can't play Game Boy Color games because they're color, but it can play all your original Game Boy games. So it's a really nice Game Boy, and you can probably get them for pretty cheap if you really want to get one. I got this one for like $10 at a pawn shop. It's also where I got Mega Man for only $6. It's a great game. It's kind of hard to play though. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe to our videos because we're going to have much more coming. And I guess up next we're probably going to do the Game Boy Color review. And when I get the original one, I'll definitely make a review of that for you guys. So thanks for watching, and please subscribe up there.